Hi, this is the first ever Sports Meister Sports Talk YouTube webisode. Pretty much every week or every other week, I'm going to have a little 10-minute segment like this talking about what's going on in the sports world. It's mainly because I want to give it a try because I was kind of interested in radio and TV and broadcast and all that, so I feel like I'd give it a shot. See if I like it, see if everybody else out there likes it. But today we're going to talk about the NBA draft, happened last week. Maybe a little bit of Wimbledon, maybe just a little bit because it's tennis, but I still got to talk about it. And if there's time, maybe the demise of the Denver Broncos in the Josh McDaniels era. The NBA draft was last week. The NBA draft isn't exciting as the NFL draft because, well, the NBA isn't as exciting as the NFL. And it probably never will be, so the draft probably won't be as dramatic or whatever. Pretty weak draft class this year. Looking back at it, Blake Griffin, the consensus number one pick. He's undersized. He's got game. He can shoot. He can dunk. He can do it all. But I see him basically as either the rich man's Emeka Okafor or the homeless man's Amari Stoudemire, which isn't really terrible either way. But it's not exactly the home run hit you want to have with the number one overall pick. Hasheem Thabeet is raw. He's only played basketball a few years. He can block shots. We know that. But Greg Oden, I mean, he can block shots, and he hasn't exactly done much either. I think Thabeet will be a lot better known, but I don't know, he's not a sure thing either. That's the problem with this draft is nothing is for sure. Except Ricky Rubio. I mean, I'm sure you've all heard about him. I mean, he's one of the most talked about guys in the sports world right now. I mean, he's hotter than the fucking Jonas Brothers. Um, Basically, he's this 18-year-old kid, played in Spanish leagues the last 4 or 5 years. He played on the Spain's Olympic team last year that fell to the USA in the gold medal game last summer. People have compared him to Pistol Pete Maravich, John Stockton. I mean, that's a pretty tall order. I think he was the best player in the draft. I think he's gonna have a long, great career, and be one of the best point guards in the league, which is a league with four great young point guards now: Rajon Rondo, Derrick Rose, Deron Williams, and Chris Paul. They're all really good young point guards. The thing is, I also thought Darko Milicic was going to be a solid player. A lot like Rubio, he played in European leagues for a couple years, then jumped to the NBA, and everyone thought he'd be the next big thing, and he didn't exactly pan out. He flared out, just played for a bunch of different teams. He's a journeyman, power forward. The guard position and forward position are obviously very different. At point guard, Rubio's going to have a lot more freedom. He's going to have the ball. It's going to be his decisions not to make instead of Milicic getting the ball from somebody. He won't have to develop like a low post game. It's just court vision and decision making, basically. The very peculiar thing about the draft is right after Rubio was drafted at 5, the Timberwolves had another selection. The Timberwolves drafted Rubio. The Timberwolves had another selection. They went with point guard from Syracuse, Johnny Flynn. And, I mean, obviously, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you first hear it because why would a team draft two point guards in a row, I mean, they eventually drafted another point guard, Lawson, later in the round, but they traded him away. But why would a team draft two point guards in a row? And especially when a shooting guard like Steph Curry from Davidson is sitting right there. He's a much better shooter. He's a bigger name. He would have complemented either one of the point guards a lot better than the point guards complement each other. My theory is the Timberwolves are a little concerned about the signability factor. Rubio's going to cost a ton of money. He's going to have to get $60 million to talk to. He's going to be a high price tag, and they don't know if they could sign him. And I think they took Flynn as the safe move. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not a douchebag. I just got out of work and I'm forced to look nice. This is all I had left in my laundry. For those who haven't seen my face, this is me. But where the hell was I? I don't understand. I think that the Timberwolves were a little concerned about the signability factor. Ricky Rubio is 18. His dad says he's going to go back to Spain. I mean, there's a lot of speculation on what's going to happen with him, but Johnny Flynn will sign, and then they'll have a point guard. Maybe they sign them both, and Johnny Flynn moves to the shooting guard position. He attacks through him a little bit better than Rubio does, according to scouting reports. Neither of them are outstanding outside shooters. So, I mean, obviously, I think Steph Curry would have been a better fit there for either of them, but what's done is done, and the Timberwolves are still in rebuilding mode and likely will be until either Rubio is a star or Flynn is a star and a couple more drafts along the way. Um, Spurs got Richard Jefferson. The Magic got Vince Carter, and the Cavaliers got Shaq, all of which are pretty big deals. Not so much for the Magic because Turkoglu's going to opt out, and Vince Carter, the most overrated player in the NBA the last 10 years, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means. That's just my opinion. Good dunker. He won the dunk contest. Since then, what has he done? Um, Jefferson is a solid player who's going to just be so much better because he's playing with Ginobili, Parker, and Duncan and all those guys and Coach Popovich. I mean, they're going to be tough. Probably the second best team in the West at this point. They got to be just because they're always going to be in the top 2 or 3. They're the Spurs. They'll be back next year, but the Cavs is the big one because Shaq had his best year in a couple years last year. His free throws were up. He was averaging 17 points a game, up from 12. He was almost double-digit rebounds per game. I mean, he had a big year last year, and him, now they got Varejao, they got Ilgauskas, they got Shaq. There's 3 big guys right there. 2 of which can play offense really well. Shaq and Ilgauskas, and Verajao's a really good defender. Gibson's coming back. Mo Williams is coming back. They got a lot of talent around the team. Not to mention it's LeBron's contract year. I have to assume he's going to average something ridiculous, like 31 points a game, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, or vice versa. I mean, he's going to have a year with just bizarre numbers. He's just going to throw everything we've ever known out the box. I just stay focused on next year's basketball season. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch if you're a Cavaliers fan or a LeBron fan or a basketball fan, really. Next up is Wimbledon. I don't know much about tennis, but I do know that Roger Federer is 1 Grand Slam away from being the most all time. He'll have 15. Past Sampras was 14. He's a world ranked number 2 player right now because Nadal is the number 1 player, but Nadal is missing Wimbledon because of ACL injury. If Federer wins, people say it's because Nadal wasn't there. If he loses, it's a monumental choke. I don't think that's fair. He won the French Open, which has always been his nemesis, last month. He'll probably win this tournament just because this isn't like golf, you don't play the entire field, you play one person at a time. If Tiger Woods did match play every round, he'd be first or second the majority of the tournaments they play. So I think Federer wins. I think he's going to be the all-time leader in wins in Grand Slams, but I don't think he stops here. I think with Nadal's his only real competition. Andy Murray's not very good. Blake, Hewitt, they're not very good players. Nothing in the likes of Nadal and Federer. So I think with Nadal's knee injuries, he's 20, 21, 22 years old. He's got a lot of knee injuries, and I don't know. I feel like he's just going to kind of flare out and not be able to compete at the same level as Federer does. So I think Federer wins this one. I think he wins another major championship later in the year, and I think he keeps on winning tournaments the next 3-4 years, maybe 5, maybe 6. I don't know. He's the greatest tennis player ever, so I guess we'll only see. Denver Broncos. I could talk about this all day, but basically Josh McDaniels, wonder kid, blunder kid, total piece of shit. Any way you want to say it. Mike Shanahan, one of the best coaches in the league in my opinion, was fired in the offseason because we failed to win the division with a 3-game lead with 3 weeks left. So we hired Josh McDaniels, this genius from New England, gets in a fight with our best player, Jay Cutler, trades him. Now Brandon Marshall wants to trade. And the thing I don't understand is we have this horrendous defense, right? We have this awful Denver defense. And then what do? With Brian Arakpo on the board at number 12, we get no Sean Marino. Like, just doesn't make sense. We've already signed like 3 or 4 running backs this offseason. It just doesn't make sense to me. Denver's in trouble. Probably going to win 4 games, maybe 5 at best, in my opinion. I'm not too hopeful about next year. We traded Cutler for 2 first-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and Kyle Orton. And then we trade that for one of those first-round picks for next year for some no-name safety in the second round. So I'm just really kind of aggravated and frustrated with the whole Denver Broncos scene right now. Kind of shifting into Yankees mode. Hopefully we can bounce back. We're like 4.5 out right now. Had some trouble against NL East opponents, but we just got enough talent. I think A-Rod's going to turn around. I think Jeter's going to stop grounding in monumental double plays, and I think everything's going to be okay for the Yankees. That's all we got for today. Got to keep it under 10 minutes. I'll be back next week or 2 weeks or so. Talk about some other things, maybe some wrestling, maybe some UFC 100 next month. So we got some stuff to talk about. Thanks a lot.